So good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you today?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be part of this diversity chat with you. How about yourself?
Every day is a day. I don't know how I make it through one day to the next, but somehow or another I wake up and it's a whole new day
By the grace of God, right?
by the grace of God.
Yeah.
May I start by asking you to tell us your name and share with us anything you feel comfortable to tell us about yourself in your life?
Sure. My name is Marvin Nurse. I got connected with Dr. Newton while I was working at Duke as an IT manager for probably I was with Duke for about 8 years and a manager for about five.
Mhm.
So we connected at Duke, and we stay connected. So I left Duke in 2018 to join. But basically, I left Duke because of reorg that we had there, and as a result of that, I decided to do something that I've always wanted to do, which was to get into real estate.
Yeah.
Prior to that, prior to even coming to Duke, about 11 years, probably 12 years now, 13 years now, I bought a real estate program, um, a home training program, took it out the box. First day, was excited. Second day, I opened the box. Third day, I put it back on the shelf and never picked it up again. So once I had the opportunity to sit down to think about what I really wanted to do, um, real estate came to the top of the list. So I decided to make that career shift and just follow that passion that I had, and I'm slowly seeing the results of that. I I live in the Durham RTP area here in North Carolina, and I'm a father of two. Originally from South America.
No,
Um,
I did not
it,
know that.
yeah, I came here back when I was probably, I think I was 11 when I first migrated to the United States. My mom traveled a lot, and she decided to settle here, so we came over shortly after that, sometime after that. So lived in Washington, D.C. for a while, and then actually moved here to North Carolina for the Marines in '98. And I spent my tour of duty there shy 1 year because I got injured. I shot a 50 caliber machine gun, and the round imploded, and pretty much I was unable to use my right hand for about 6 months. So at the end of that, I requested to be discharged early, so I got the early discharge. So I decided to stay in North Carolina and make a career and a life. And fast forward to today, I think I still do like the decision that I've made. So I'm glad to still be part of the Southern life, as I call it.
Absolutely. Um, and when you got the real estate book or program, why did you get it at that time and why didn't you follow through with it?
I was excited. I think at that time when I got the real estate program, I was hearing, talks about get into real estate. It's lucrative, and I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I'm going to try this out because for me, I'm basically I'm a self starter.
Uh-huh.
Um, I have about 2 years of college, but everything else that I know, I've taught myself, IT in general. So I got the book and I said, you know what, I can do this. I wanted to get this done. So I searched online and I saw this deal for a program and got it. And I think at the time it was more of I wasn't ready. I wasn't in the right place for it, even though I was excited to go after it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I opened it up and I thought I was able to focus, but it was not there. It was not the time for me to do that. So I tried. And then with me, I'll try things a couple of times, but if it's not working out and I'm not passionate about it, I'm going to put it to the side and go on to something else.
Yeah. But God always has great timing, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And this was actually the best time for it because I've grown a lot within the 2 years that I've been in real estate. I've learned a lot.
Mhm.
And just coming out of a full-time job, because I made a total cut. I decided not to work again and just focus 100% on real estate. So I believe what you put into things is what you get out of it. And I
Amen.
believe I sowed those seeds, and within my first 8 to 9 months, I started seeing the results of my investments, so the return on my investments. So it's been good, and it's continued to be good. And right now, it's a perfect time to be in real estate as well. So
Absolutely. I hear it's a seller's market, you
it's
know.
a seller's market, yes. And there's with the COVID, the Corona, the pandemic, and everything. We would think that real estate would probably just die,
Yeah.
but actually, it's better than it's ever been in years,
Excellent.
and that is surprising. It's like taking us back to the 2008 era, but even better because I think people know now and have been prepared for something like this. So the market is still moving. It's still, people are buying, people are selling. So there's a shortage of inventory, but that's why we were speaking. A property coming to market for a week, you're lucky if you see it for a week. So
Right. Right.
that's just how it is. Everyone is looking for that property and that deal, and it's continuing to shift. And we as realtors right now, we just have to pivot with the changes because we're doing things completely different than the way we were used to doing it. Me, a year ago, I looked at things differently. I was out in the streets. I was lead generating. Now I'm doing everything on Zoom, on phone calls, and conference calls and things like that. So it's a totally different market for
Yeah.
real estate, especially with the current situation. So, but I'm
Absolutely.
still producing.
I think the pandemic is good for real estate because people up north are in these high cases where corona is high are looking to move, in areas where it's not. And although North Carolina is not perfect, I mean, we have much lower rates than anyone else. And for some reason, I think we know how to listen with that. We have a good governor, in Durham, we have a good mayor. So, we have people who set direction, and most people who live in Durham abide by what's been requested. So I think that's one of the reasons why housing inventory, specifically in North Carolina, has been so good is because we've had good leadership and people helping us stay safe and not to have us out here, going to a house party with 80 people in it, and then, infect
Yeah.
everybody in the world. So that's really good. I'm glad to hear that. Let me ask you this. What type of so are you a developer? Are you a flipper? Are you a builder? Tell me what kind of real estate do you do?
So I am a full-time broker, in North Carolina, licensed broker, primarily in residential sales, new construction, and resale. I am now changing a direction or adding on to that, where I'm adding commercial real estate. Eventually, investment real estate will be under my belt as well. Because when I got into real estate back in February of 2018, my goal was not just to get into the profession and sell houses. My goal was further along. I saw a need for low community real estate and low income community real estate and housing affordability. There's a major shortage for that. We're being pushed out. So I saw a need to create an environment for where low income families can affordably find housing and decent housing for themselves. So I wanted to build that pathway where eventually, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, it is my reason for getting into real estate, to be able to get to that point where I can produce and do something for the community in terms of creating opportunities for low income families to be able to afford housing. So that's the reason why I got into real estate. But at the same time, the journey with everything, there's stages to it, and I feel that I'm actually moving along at a good pace, at a good rate, because I take the education seriously. I think in order for us to be good at our craft, we have to put that time in. And I'm a spiritual guy, so we have to sow those seeds and not think about the return on that seed. We just got to be obedient and follow what it is that we're supposed to do, and eventually we'll get past all the negatives, all the no's, and things are going to open up. And I think that's the direction I'm moving with real estate.
Excellent. And so the obvious question, right? So why did you leave IT? Because we also know IT is a very, has low unemployment, pays well. Why did you leave that?
So I didn't leave IT. I left the organization that I worked for. I think I've been in IT for over 25 years, and I love every bit of it. I think I blended well with it. Um, I understood it to the degree of I made a life career of it. So I did not leave IT. I left the organization because at the point I said before I worked at Duke, and we were going through a reorg, and being a manager for 5 years and having a team of 16 analysts and system analysts, and then to be told that you're not qualified for the position that you're in, I think that left a certain taste in my mouth, a certain message that I got from that. So I fought it for a while, but then at the end of the day, I said, you know what? Perhaps it's time for me to shift. And that's exactly what I did. I took my severance and took some time to think to myself and decided to do something that I wanted to do. And, had I been in a different position, gotten a different outcome, I probably would still be at Duke. But I believe that I still consult on the side for IT,
Mm-hmm.
but essentially I left the organization. We were speaking earlier about leadership, and I think that's what I left. I left the leaders that was not for me, was not for, and I'm going to say it. We're speaking about diversity here, so it was not for people of my skin color.
Amen.
The shift that Duke made pretty much diminished my department from 85% African Americans to maybe about 2% African Americans. And, this went under the umbrella of we're trying to, develop a different skill set for the organization. I'm getting called 2 years later saying that nothing really has come to fruition with what has been promised, except for the African American population has diminished drastically.
Continues to diminish, and there are very few African American leaders, even whether they're faculty or whatever it is. There are very few, and I don't think that's unique to Duke. But what I do think Duke does is like they talk that game, right? So
yes.
About diversity, like when we had Juneteenth, we heard on the president say we need to spend the day reflecting. There's nothing about what he said. He said, okay, you can have the day off and reflect, but you need to spend the day reflecting. So come to work, do your job, and while you're there reflecting. For me, right. What I heard from that message was, as a Black person, I don't need to reflect. I know what Juneteenth is. I have ancestors and I've lived through this forever. So you must have been talking to white people. And if you haven't given them any instructions how to reflect,
right, they don't know where to go.
Right. You just said some really nice words, but that's literally all you've done.
Right.
So there's that. So you still do consulting on the side. So you have you have another side hustle, huh? You have
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I've always thought of myself as a hustler.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen. So you always have to have a plan B somewhere.
Absolutely.
And I know IT works for me. I know I can do it. So I decided just instead of even when I started at Duke, I didn't completely do away with my consultancy. I just kind of diminished it to a very minimum. And it was still there while I worked at Duke, and it was there after I left Duke, and it will continue to be there because I think I've set up a good base for that in the years that I've been in IT. So I've had this one client that I'm working with. I've had this client for 10 years. Mm-hmm. I saw them from their beginning, and I'm still building them up right now. So that is why I decided to not totally get out of IT, but just shift career path, my primary career path. Yes. So, but to your point, that's exactly it. The leadership that came in, spoke a very good work. Even the leadership that was there made some promises. And for me, it wasn't necessarily about what was going to happen to me. I was asking questions about the staff because, there's families, there's responsibilities. And yes, I was concerned for myself, but while I was in the role that I was in, I was concerned for my staff. Yeah. So I had conversation, I asked questions, and the promises that were made was basically, your staff, they're at a very good skill set, so they don't have anything to worry about. And just like you said, I did some analysis of data that was asked of me. I provided numbers. I presented, the work, the level of work ratio to bodies that we have, and how it shows that there's a shortage, not an overhead of bodies for the work that we're doing. And at the end of the day, that was not the reason for all that. That was just the fluff to say, look, we don't want this department existing as it is. We want a shift. Because like I said, 85% African Americans that were doing that has been there for a span of anywhere from 30 years, anywhere from 2 years to 30 years, that knows the functionality of the department and knows the history of Duke and know how things work. Why would you, disband that? But it's simply, and it's factual, yes, technology was growing. Technology continues to grow. And I think, a better way to have approached the reorg that we went through was to train.
Right.
But that wasn't the option. The option was to bring in people, quote unquote, with a skill set, right, that aligned with the idea of the direction, the vision of the technology that we're implementing at Duke, and start there. But I think that was a great mistake, because you got rid of a very good population of people that not one knew the culture, but also knew the customers that we served. And I think that did a disservice. And from what you're saying, it continues to happen. And it's unfortunate that, like you said, it's not only at Duke, it's basically in the world that we live in.
Right.
So I think, that shift left us in a position to reconsider a lot of things. And why I made that decision to completely leave is that I didn't want to deal with that, the politics in itself. Because I went to bat. I went to the COO. I had conversation. Hey, you promised, you said that, my team is skilled to do the work that is coming down the line. Why is it that I see, these changes, and you're not even speaking, you're sending other people to represent you to deliver these messages? And on top of that, you hire a new director that is completely, and I'm going to say this, that is completely a racist. Yeah. And the reason why I say that is I've had conversation with this leader, and the first thing I was asked is, why am I able to afford the car that I was driving?
No.
Yeah. Why am I able to afford the car that I was driving?
Let me just ask you a question. If you don't want to answer this, please don't. Do you work on the university side or the health system side?
I work on the health system side.
Oh my God.
I owe nothing to Duke. I appreciate the opportunities. I still am connected to the folks that I need to be connected to.
Right.
But in terms of the organization that the outside world see, yes, opportunities are there. Yes, it's a great place to work. At the same time, I said this before, it's not the company, it's the leadership that's there. And I believe that's why Duke is continuing to fail in the direction that it is. We don't see it on the outside, but when you talk to people on the inside, the people that are there on the front line, you hear it.
Right.
So, the health system side, but more so the technology part of that, because the university side has its own technology department, and the health system side has its own technology department. And I think the leadership there, one, they're outdated, and two, I think their mindset is still in that old age, saying that I'm going to continue to take this carve of mine and leave a legacy that is mine, and leave and whatever it is that I need to do to get there and maintain that. That's what I'm going to do. Not what is effective, what is right, what serves the people that are there, because at the end of the day, you have to invest in people. Business is important, but you always have to be invested in the people that work, because they're the one that's driving your business. They're the one that's making your vision come to fruition. They're the one that's doing the work every day. So you have to invest in them. And I think that was the missing part.
Yeah. So the manager, or the person you said that was racist, did you go back to the CAO or the CTO or any of those other people and talk to them about that person?
I took this situation all the way to HR. I took it to HR, and at the end of that, the combination of all the things that I took to them basically left me in a place where I'm like, okay, it seemed that the HR folks are not listening or not following through with my concerns. And with DHTS, when you have a COO that HR reports to, there's a gap there. There's a problem there.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't able, anything that I took to HR circle right back around.
Right.
So at the end of the day, my name, became an annoyance because I was creating trouble.
Right.
And, if you are the head of HR, which you shouldn't be, running an organization, HR should be completely separate. That creates a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly did. And at the end of the day, I was labeled a troublemaker because I was raising these concerns while everyone was just accepting things and saying, sure, no problem. I know my worth, and you're not going to tell me that I'm not qualified for a position that I've been in and have built up for 5 years. But you're going to say someone that was below me, that I was over, is more qualified than I am because they're white.
Wow. And is that manager? I don't know if you said she was a manager or director.
It's the senior director for operations at Duke.
And that person's still there?
I believe so, yes.
And
I'll tell you what, it's amazing because I'm on LinkedIn and we're connected on LinkedIn, and I don't understand why this gentleman continues to look at my profile every 2 weeks. But it's just amazing that this is what's happening. But yeah, that person is still there. I speak to some of the staff that are there, some of the managers that I connected with, and things are much worse than it's ever been for the department that I came from. And things have shifted, of course, but when you have a department that was performing at a tier 1 level change to a tier 4 level within a year, that's very bad, right? That doesn't say that the people that was there wasn't doing the job. That's saying that the leadership that's there have no clue what to do.
So. In my instance with Duke, the library director that was there when I first started, he retired and died. So they eventually hired another library director. And at least my understanding of how management works, you don't walk in the first day and start making changes. You take the time to sit back and understand the culture, what your people are, what they do. But the day she got there, she started making changes left and right. And one of those things she did, she asked Central IT to do an audit of my department, right? So they did an audit. And I think it was in September. And I think it was done by the end of December. I won't swear on exactly when it ended, but somewhere along there. Mm-hmm. So on July 14th now, so remember I told you it was done in September, so September 2019. Yeah. On July 14th, I get a 10-minute invite, Zoom invite, my thing, right? I don't know what it is, but okay. And it's from the library director. So I'm like, okay, maybe she's going to tell us we reviewed the audit and there was nothing for us to do. Great. She got on the call first, and then the HR person in the law school got on the call. And they said, well, we've looked at the audit, and we have decided to eliminate your and Wayne's position. Exact words. And I went back and I read an email that President Price has sent that no one would lose their job during the pandemic.
Right.
So there was that part, right? And the thing to me that hurt most was during the pandemic, right? So you had January, February, and most of March to tell me, so you can go find a job. But the way it was phrased to me, so I got 60 days to look for a job at Duke. So September 14th will be the end of my 60 days. If not, then I'll be put in layoff status.
Right.
And I guess you get a week's pay. I don't remember what it is, but however long you've been there, you get a certain amount of pay.
For your years of being there, right?
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, some kind of severance. I don't know whether it's a year of pay or a week of pay. I'm sure it's not a year of pay every week, but something for every year you've been there, or something like that. I don't know what it is.
But I think you get a week for every year that you've been there.
Yeah, so that's probably what it is. So what's really interesting about this is, I have found Duke to be inviting and isolating at the exact same time, right? Mm. I can learn anything I want to at Duke. I have the opportunity to grow, learn anything. And then there are parts where people paint me as this is who I am. So you said what you said. They said, I'm the angry black woman, right? So I'm not the one. I'm the squeaky wheel. I'm always making noise, and so that makes me vulnerable for that. Instead
Right.
of people asking why is she squeaking, because my work has almost been perfect, you know.
Right.
So when we have tried to hire people, especially people not white, you know, the criteria is so high.
Hmm.
So let's just say if you were an IT analyst
Right.
and you were coming into another IT analyst job, there's no raise. You
Right.
get exactly what you had, what you were before. Now
Right.
your job duties have changed, but you
Right.
still have that official job description of IT analyst. And so
Right.
and so those kinds of struggles continue, you know, for there. So if you do intend for black and brown people to grow and to advance, you have to look at this in a different kind of way, because, you know, they promote people into jobs where 9 times out of 10, you just shake your head and say, you know, why this person? What was so qualified about this person? And you don't see it. You know,
Right.
maybe they know something you don't. Of course, you know, HR, you know, and they know what they're doing. But importantly, you know, I think I don't know enough about the overarching part of Duke, but I do know it's white and male and a few females and a few black and brown people, but it's not very much, right? And so for the people that are in the trenches, they don't understand what it's like, right? So you aren't gonna you could sit right next to someone who's doing the exact same job you are, same job, amount of education, same experience, and he or she is paid more,
Right.
simply because they got the
Right.
wrong, they got too much melanin in their skin. And
Hmm.
then to further that, um, you know, the answer always is when you then go back and challenge. So you said you took yours all the way to HR. So you go back and you challenge, and they will tell you, well, it's a personnel matter. We can't discuss it with you. Now it's about you.
Right.
It's not about, you know, the guy sitting across the table. It's about you. It's a
Yeah.
personnel matter. We can't discuss it with you. What
Yeah.
personnel matter is it that you can't discuss with me if there's a personnel issue with me?
That I'm bringing to you. Right.
Right,
Right.
right. That you can't discuss. So anyway, and again, as I say this all the time, I don't think Duke is unique in any way. I think it exists all across all industries, especially if they're large enough. You know, that there's that word homosocial reproduction, right? I prefer to be with people who look and act like me and have my shared values. So that's where I am. And so you can see how this happens over and over and over and over and over and over again. So there's
Right.
that. Okay.
Right.
So we're going to change the subject. We're going to be nice now. We're going to talk about your side hustle. So do you have a formed company? You have a consulting company?
So I do. I've had this company since it formed at the end of 2009.
Mhm.
Computer Nurse IT, and what I do is pretty much provide computer services for small to medium sized businesses. Whether
Do you need a partner?
Hey, I'm always looking for partners.
There you go. Count me in.
Absolutely. So, and you know, with the pandemic and thing and the way things are going, maybe that's an opportunity with what's going on in society today. But I did form this company, a consulting company, where I go out and it's anywhere from, and I basically focus on networking,
Mhm.
whether it's implementing or whether it's taking over, maintaining, and improvement. So and managing, of course. So I created this company, and it's been actually. Um, let's say circa Duke, I was pretty much full time in that,
Mhm.
and lucrative. It was beneficial. I was getting visibility. However, to your point of saying that it's not unique to Duke, it's very true, and it's spanned back for as long as I've been black, right? And you've been black.
Right.
But I ran into this same issue in that even though I was controlling what it is that I do, what it is that how I function, when it came time for opportunities to expand into, a white company or a larger company that's ran by a person that is not black, I began to see pushback.
Yeah.
I could put together a a, a riveting presentation as far as my services and the value that I could add or bring to this company, and they'll sit and look at it, but at the end of the day, it'll go back to you. It looks like you're costing too much for what it is that you're doing. I can, continue to use the person that I have, even though the conversation was we need to expand and improve our technology.
Right.
And when you present it to them, it's like, okay, well, we'll get back to you, and the conversation never continues.
Right.
So I ran into that a lot of the times as well. So it just so happened that the clients that I've had, the leadership, the company has been African American.
Yeah.
It's in the mental health counseling field. So the few companies that I've been, blessed to be able to help and build and maintain a network for has been African American, and it worked well. It's just that I wanted to grow
Right.
outside of that sphere, but when I step outside of my quote unquote proverbial color lane, the doors were all closed on me. Even though the conversations were, yeah, we welcome you to come in, and you had a really great presentation. We like what you're doing. So why is it that you're not giving me this contract that you need? Yeah. Because I look at your systems, and from what I do, it seems antiquated. And what your support person does, from what you're telling me, he does not address the concerns and needs of your business. Right. And this is what I'm promising to bring to you. So that's there as well. And like I said, I've been consulting for a while, because I'm in real estate full-time now. And when I actually started at Duke, that diminished, but I did decide to keep one or two clients so that I can continue to have that side hustle.
Right.
But now I'm beginning to look at that differently because, with the pandemic and the uncertainty of tomorrow, we have to be able to pivot and figure out what it is that we're going to do. So I wanted to keep that door open, but I'm also thinking that maybe I need to be a Jamaican, a jack of all trades, and have a few jobs. I'm Caribbean, but maybe I need to shift and think like a Jamaican and have 3-4 jobs. But at the end of the day, we are conditioned to think that way because we're Black.
Right.
A white person is not going to say, I need to have 5-6 jobs. No, they're going to go and, put their resume together and present it to a company and sit down, and it could have been 5 other participants or, applicants that came through that job port, and that white person got hired, right?
Yeah,
no difference in resume, no difference in experience, probably less qualified. Right. But they got the job. So I wanted to stay away from that, and that's why I made the decision that I'm not going to work for anyone else again, because I wanted to control that narrative for myself. It's a struggle, but I prefer this struggle than the struggle of defending my worth.
Right.
Right.
And your skin color. And
my skin color, right. And I wake up this way, so I always have to do that, right?
Right.
It's the world we live in. But
ever walk to the mirror and see a white person looking back at you? Person is always Black.
There you go.
You're Black all the time.
All the time. So, the main thing is I don't feel that I need to always defend my worth. I can show you my worth, and I will definitely do that to the best of my abilities. And I can say I'm confident enough to know that I know what it is that I'm doing. Yeah. So when you challenge my worth and you tell me, no, sir, get out, you're not worth what you think you're worth, that's a problem for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's a threat. It's a challenge because, half the time, it's a cluster. We all know that. Right. And when you have someone that's thinking logically and thinking sensibly, they get pushed away, especially if the table is filled with other than Black, and that's my experience, even outside of working for a paycheck for a company. So even in consulting, there's struggle there. Yeah. But at least I'm comfortable with knowing that I have the control, and I can control the outcome of how it is that I navigate.
Yeah. When we finish this recording, I'm going to give you some information. So if you can hang on for a few minutes, we don't have very much more time anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let me ask you this question. So a lot of what you've said has already answered this question for me, but let me ask it in the most plain way I can. What is it like to be a Black man in America?
Oh my goodness. I think we're going to need a few sessions for this. But for the purpose of this, it's hell. It's hell. And I'm a Black man. I have a son that's Black. I have a daughter that's Black. it's just hell being black, but I'm speaking to my gender, right?
Right.
Um, I worry. I know that I am a good person. I know that I have compassion. I
Hmm.
know that I care, and I treat people the way I want to be treated. But that's in the sphere of my mind, my circle, right? Outside of that, none of that is of concern. None of that is even looked at. The fact that I'm black is all that um, is basically the measure of who I am. And living in America, and I had this conversation in another diversity session that I had with some good folks. I'm from the Caribbean. I grew up in Guyana. I knew nothing about racism.
Right.
Um, I was the majority, right? My skin color was the majority. Now we had different people there. We have Indians, Amerindian. We have different people there, but I never experienced racism until I came to America.
Yeah.
And the folks that I was talking to were surprised. Like, are you serious? No, I had no idea that this is what racism was when I first came. Because if I thought when I think back to moments and in my first years here, I'm like, oh wow, I experienced racism the moment I got here, and I didn't know it. So that was the shift. But for me, having to look over your shoulder, having to worry about, am I, good enough? Question your worth. Um, you know, in any regard, it's a challenge. It takes away. It weighs on your mental psyche on a daily basis. But the most fearing thing is, like you said, being an African American male in America, being black. Um, I worry every day.
Yeah.
The inside of my home, I worry too.
Yeah. Right.
But even more so outside, I pray so I know I'm covered. But at the end of the day, I carefully watch my path, because I know the wrong turn, the wrong shift may put me in a position where um, I may not come back home.
Yeah.
You
You know.
know, I may not see tomorrow,
Yeah.
and that's scary.
I think that one of the things is, to be a black woman is hard. Malcolm X said the most disrespected, most neglected, most abused person on the planet is a black woman. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I will say, for the black man, you have like a triple whammy, right?
Yeah.
So you're dealing with the white community, right? You're dealing with the issues of being a man, which I have no idea what that's like, because I do believe that men and women are nothing alike.
Right, right,
We find compatibility, but there's nothing. But then there's also the black woman, right?
right, right,
Because we also have strapped you down with all the things that are wrong with you, right? So you're not affectionate, you don't bring flowers, you don't call when you're supposed to, you're not doing this, we're wondering every minute you're away from us, are you cheating, all that stuff.
right, right,
But when I ask you about being a black man, to me, black women are not as fragile as black men, because we've been through so much, right? We've been raped, we've had our children stole off from under us. So I think it's
right,
given toughness that we are prepared for it. And I think, as you get older, at least I can say in my case, I'm not so passive anymore. You're not just going to talk to me anywhere. You're not just going to treat me anyway. But that applies to black men too, so
right,
I've been married to my husband for 26, 27 years. He's an amazing man, brilliant, kind, all the things that you could say. But there are days I rip him to shreds, because it's like, this just can't work like this. This just can't be the way this is,
right,
because, it's hard. So I think that for black men, a lot of people talk about, black men being single, why they pick white women, all the things that they do. You can only take so much stress and pressure. You can only take so much, right? So you're getting it from your white colleagues or your colleagues at work. You're getting it from your paycheck, how much money you have in your account. And then the women that are in your lives, and hopefully it's only one, not plural, but
right, right,
and she's critical too. So you got criticism coming at you from everywhere, which then leads to even more chaos internally, right?
right.
Right. So that was really what my question was.
So you're hitting right on the head. I think, um, I always want to set the understanding that equally there's a struggle for black men and women, right? But in terms of what you said, that is true. Whichever way we turn, we have to watch how we maneuver, how we act. And that internal struggle is there. And I think, I see a lot more, resources for us by ourselves where we're gathering and having these discussions, these conversations, because I think for the longest while, we didn't have an outlet. We just had to deal with it. We just had to, hold on to all that turmoil on the inside. So having an outlet, having a circle to be able to get it out, to be able to converse about it, to be able to talk about it with other men that are clearly having the same struggle. It doesn't matter what the socioeconomic status is, what the education background is, what the paycheck looks like, what the bank, it doesn't matter. We're all having the same struggle. And I believe that the conversation helps, and it continues because you have the conversation, you have the outlet to talk about it. But what is more important, because a black man, if you're married to a black woman, or if you're with a black woman, or if you value black women, you have to live with them. So that conversation needs to happen as well, where the understanding, where the expressions of how you feel internally, how things, how you view the world around you needs to be understood by that black woman, so that not she can be any more fragile, but so she can understand, hey, this is my struggle. This is where I stand. This is where I'm coming from. So that is a challenge, but I think the conversation is necessary. The dialogue is important, because that's the only way we can, a lot of times we have dialogue because everyone wants to say something and wants to be heard. But I think we need to have the dialogue so that we can equally understand. And from that understanding, implement things that will promote the conversation, promote the relation, promote that connection that we have with each other, so that we can be better for each other, be better, together and apart. Because you don't have to be with a black woman to support the struggle of a black woman. You don't have to be with a specific black man to support the struggle of a black man. You just have to have that connection, because you're black, right? So I think it's from all direction, and we have to continuously just mind that and keep that conversation going so we can get better.
Yeah. I would just say that the thing that kind of goes along with what we just said, is that we have thoughts that have been given to us about what love should look like between black and brown people. So when white people paint the picture, all we do is have sex. We don't do anything else but have sex. We wake up, we go sleep. We don't even feed our children. We're having sex every single moment.
Making lots of babies.
Right. That's all we do. We have sex, and that we are inherently promiscuous, which is absolutely not correct. So as a black woman, a part of it is that, we are trying to figure out how to manage this thing that is unmanageable, this unmanageable thing, and so I think that is a part of the reason why black men and women struggle so often, because of what we're told love should look like, right? What we're told love should be. Do we really know? Because I don't know about you. I'm quite a bit older than you, but growing up, I knew I was loved, but it didn't look like love to me. If that makes sense to you, it looked more like I
was tolerated.
Right, like like I was protected. So don't get me wrong. My family protected me. They made sure I was okay, and all that. But in reality, the fundamentals of love, right? Nurturing, supporting, encouraging, so you could go outside and play, you had to be in the house before the lights went down. You could go and chat with your friends or whatever it is. But when you came home, and I tell people this to this day, because I have this problem with both of my children. My children are, young, not young, but young, they're adults, I grew up in the era where children were seen and not heard.
Mm.
So these people, these millennials, are heard. They don't even care whether you see them or not, as long as you hear them. What they've got to say,
Right,
'cause their
right,
point
right,
matters. You know, and in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, no, no, this not going to work for me. You know, this gonna have to, you know, work some other kind of way. So it's been kind of hard trying to, you know, understand what happens between men and women, right? You know, so I don't even know how to say what I'm trying to say, but I think you get my point. I think
yes,
you
absolutely,
get
absolutely.
my point.
Yeah, it's just it's again it's that understanding that's necessary, right?
Right.
And I think trying to find ways to communicate, to be heard, to express where your views are, where you're seeing things, how you interpret things.
Right.
It's not easy, especially within our own within our own blackness.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting better, but I think we need to have these conversations a lot more so that we can. I know there's a handle that I follow on Instagram. It's called Black Love,
Yeah.
and it shows examples, whether it's for TV or not. It shows relationship examples of Black couples really, you know, sharing and expressing, hey, we are. This is how we work. This is why we work. These are things that we had to overcome. These are decisions that we had to make and stay committed to be able to sit here and say that, you know, we saw some really bad days before. We saw some, you know, times where we questioned our love, but because we stuck through it and we had the conversations and we acted after those conversations, we were able to say that, you know, we have matured in our relationship. We have matured in our love, in our communication, and you see that because of how they relate. And I think that's what's been broken. To your point earlier, that stuff has been taken away. You know, the manhood of a Black man has been stripped, and the woman had to be, you know, the mother, the father, the caretaker, the home builder, all that, because we were stripped. And that psychological effect continued on for generation and generations. And in that, we then create a bad name for ourselves by doing all the things that we're not supposed to do or shouldn't do as a man. And
Right.
that's because of the confusion that we have on the inside. No excuses for it, but it's there. So that dynamic of, you know, miscommunication, misunderstanding exists because there's so much turmoil. But I think when you have the conversation, when you sit down and get real, I use the acronym HOT: honest, open, and transparent. When you get hot with each other, you're then able to see, you know, where the breakdown was, where the growth needs to happen, where's the miscommunication, the misunderstanding, and you get to listen and hear better so that you can respond better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this chat. This has been very helpful.
Yeah.
I put a picture in the chat that I did not mean to put there. I clicked on
Oh, okay, I just saw it. I love it.
a
Well, it looks like it's a cake, right?
picture of me and a cake.
Got it.
Yeah, that was not the picture. I'm trying to see if I can find the picture before I do this, but I'm gonna stop recording. So let me do that.